Hello, YouTubers. This is Joe here of Joe and Paul. I am stopped up as anything, but if I take the Benadryl, even 25 milligrams, I'll be in zombie land here in about an hour and 10 minutes. And I don't want to be in zombie land. Sometimes it's very fun to be in zombie land, but not as a general rule. And since I've got to, cook food on a hot stove and so forth here later on today, and walk around without the staggers, I'm not going to take the Benadryl, and I shall remain stopped up. So if I turn my head and cough and snort, that's the reason why.
Part of the norm.
Yes, as Paul's pointing out from the other side of this machine, that's part of the norm. Indeed it is. Pretty much all year round for both of us, but sometimes worse than others.
Worse than others.
Now today, we had a bit of a treat, and a fellow who's a friend of ours came up, and well, we don't see him very often, and we've known him for well over 30 years. And we're not going to go into the details of things, but he was talking about the people that we knew mutually and their medical problems and the thises and the that's. And so we got updated, and he did not know that we were computerized. So, there was the whole exchange of email this and email that. And so Paul has joined us, and that's great. That's absolutely great. You can see the open door here. It's it's in the mid-50s today, which is somewhat unexpected. Move in here a little bit closer there, Paul.
60, actually.
Well, it's warm. It's in late January. It's so.
We're having almost the spring weather.
Well, that'll end up in shortly, but still, it's always nice to not have
frigid ice everywhere.
Well,
slipping and falling, busting your boat.
It's the ice that's the problem. You don't want the ice. I mean, I don't mind the snow. Well.
No, because the snow gives traction.
Well, I won't mind
it's not frozen.
I won't mind the snow if I can pop for a new front end loader. But so there we are. So our bud was up here, and he's got a couple of hobby horses he likes to ride hard and wet, and hard and not put away, and put away wet. And but that's okay. That's okay. And we got his email and another friend's email from him that didn't know that we were computerized, and so that's the way that goes. Now I get beguiled from time to time into the Wall Street Journal. I guess you'd call it a chat room, but they call it the community commentary. This is not a community. If this is a community, it's a very chaotic pre-organization, pre-tribal community, and in terms of tooth and claw.
The global community.
Well, no, it's these people are very hostily aggressive. They were talking about they had this piece about the Boy Scouts finally saying that they'd let individual troops or packs decide if they're going to let gays in. And excuse me, I was in the Scouts. I was in Cub Scouts, and I enjoyed Cub Scouts for the most part. And then I was in Boy Scouts for a brief period of time, and largely left it because it was turned into sort of a paramilitary flag worshiping, thing. And But that had nothing to do necessarily with the whole idea of scouting. I mean, scouting properly done is great. And I went back to Explorers when I got older and was actually president of the post, and we had a great deal of fun and a conservation activity thing that people had provided. And of course, as 16-year-olds will do, we also had some other fun. But
I mentioned activities.
Well, we
tent flaps.
Well, I don't know about tent flaps, but there was a certain amount of naked running around in the wintertime, which tended to, keep you on your toes, so to speak. Still, we digress. But so the Boy Scouts apparently are letting people, So there was a discussion thread, and these, commentary things. And one fellow said, how will they determine a gay merit badge? Well, ha ha ha, which is fun, ha ha. Listen, I can laugh at myself as well as the next guy. So I said, they'll determine it if you can rub two sticks together to create a fire. Hidden meaning, subtle, second meaning, ha ha ha. Okay. I meant it as a joke. Well, we all know that as Will, that Will Rogers said, when Congress makes a law, it's a joke, and when Congress makes a joke, it's a law. Well, I guess as far as the Wall Street Journal community commentary was, when someone makes a joke, it's a license to kill. Now, look, guys, I've been the subject of a lot of anti-gay stuff over the years. Not recently, thank God, but I have been in the past. Even before I sort of officially, quote, came out, unquote. And after I officially came out, unquote, and unquote came out. Even more so by certain surgeons at the place where I work. For example, in the surgeon's lounge, there was this French-Canadian immigrant who was not a citizen, by the way, and who used to, by his own admission, smuggle microwaves across the border.
Oh, I remember him.
Yes, well, we don't need to name names, we don't need to do into the pack drill. But whenever I would say, drop something and bend over and pick up, he would say to his partner, watch out, Steve, watch out, Steve, when, Kersey's presenting to you. So there was a lot of stuff that went on like that. But, when you're making a living, you're making a living, and there it is. So to get back to the Wall Street Journal stuff, this conversational thread, and I thought maybe I'd print it off and read it, but it's ultimately boring. But it became very aggressively personal, and so I was thinking about this morning, and I got thinking, this is the first time I've really been objectified as opposed to treated individually in quite a long time. And, obviously, if anybody's going to make decisions on a macro level, you have to make generalizations. I mean, we all know that, some generalizations are true. However much one might not like them to be true, they're true. But this had to do with my personal history, and these people didn't know me. These people were very like, oh, this is why you've caused so much misery in the world and all that stuff. Well, all right, fine. Go with God. Peace be upon you. But it was an interesting experience to sort of revisit the kind of hostility that, had I perhaps gone into a less focused line of work, I might have encountered on an even more regular basis. So that was interesting. So anyway, this friend of ours came up and we talked about, well, he apparently had a spell of chest pain. Now, there's a lot of stuff, that can cause chest pain. Cardiac stuff, esophageal stuff. Those are the two biggies. Musculoskeletal stuff sort of the distant third. So he went to a local hospital renowned for its heart expertise, and they immediately slapped a nitroglycerin patch on him, and they apparently they gave him some low-dose heparin in his abdomen. Okay, 5,000 units of low-dose heparin, which, a single dose of that's probably not going to harm anybody regardless of their circumstances. They did some stuff. I don't know. I mean, well, they ended up keeping it overnight, and then they did some stuff. Now, and Paul's just had a gravity event. Well, that's okay. That happens, doesn't it? Well, we can get into the frequency of gravity events among people who love beer later on, perhaps. But anyway, so this guy. But so the point of all this is that when he got the bill, now he's got magnificent medical insurance from his retirement. He was a police officer, and he's got public employees retirement system stuff and so forth. And this thing for a day and a half was $40,000, of which, and this guy has insurance, by the way, of which he has to pay $7,000
out of pocket.
Out of pocket, as he says. Well, he can do that. He says he's saved and so forth. But my word, and hang on a minute. As it turns out, there wasn't anything wrong with him. No, there wasn't a thing wrong with him. They did a full evaluation. There wasn't anything wrong with him. So, he came in, he had some pain, and I bet you that's the last time that'll teach him to talk about his pain, won't it? $7,000. So, I'm not taking a stand. I mean, I've got several ideas on this whole medical, payment stuff. But here's a guy that he's not a hysterical fellow at all. He thought he had a serious problem. His wife, who's also involved in the pharmaceutical industry, thought he had a serious problem. And it turns out he had no problem whatsoever. No problem whatsoever. Yet $7,000. $40,000 if he hadn't had the insurance. Can you imagine? Well, I guess you just have to stiff him, wouldn't you? That's what I do. That's what I have to do. I have no insurance. And I'm a retired physician. I'm not a wealthy man. I'm a wealthy man, but I'm not a wealthy man in terms of being able to buy insurance. Give me a break. People have to. Well, I don't know what Paul said, but people have to get a grip on this stuff. Let alone the people who are purveying it. Well, I think that's going to be about it. Paul's been getting in his computer, and my grandson's been sick, so I'm going to have to figure out how to get hold of my son to talk about that. I hope, it's hard to say with, a fever and sick. Heck, and a 4-year-old, that could be anything, couldn't it? So, all righty. We're going to say bye-bye now.